Hello students, today we are going to read Tony Hoagland's Why I Like the Hospital. While researching for this video, I came across an interesting analogy by Jeffrey Gray. He commented that Tony Hoagland wields his poetry as a rock star wields his guitar. So, let us dive into his poem in order to find out more about our rock star poet. Why I Like the Hospital by Tony Hoagland. Why I like the hospital? Because it is all right to be in a bad mood there. Slouching along through the underground garage, riding wordlessly on the elevator with the other customers, staring at the closed beige doors like a prison wall. Now, the first stanza, if you notice, it is very short, yet it appropriately sets the tragicomic tone of the poem. What do I mean by tragicomic tone? The incidents, the instances that are described in the poem, those incidents are all tragic. Yet it has been placed or it has been described in such a manner that it adds a bit of humor or that comic element into it. Now, the first sentence of the poem begins with a conjunction. We generally, in any sentence, we do not start a sentence with a conjunction, right? But here we see that the poet begins it with a conjunction. And why does he do such a thing? He does it so that the readers are already prepared that whatever they are expecting, perhaps their expectations will not be met. I do not mean it in a negative sense. What I mean is he is trying to prepare the readers for the unexpected. He says that it is all right to be in a bad mood in a hospital, slouching along through the underground garage. Now, each of the lines you will find has a keyword. Here in the second line, our keyword is slouching. Slouching is a position where a person is unable to stand straight. He is bent down. Now, this posture itself tells us about the condition of the patient or even the people around him, his loved ones, his family members. Because one enters a hospital in a state of anxiety or in a state of pain. He is in a state of pain if he is suffering from the ailment. He is in a state of anxiety if he is anticipating a kind of diagnosis that might be dangerous, that might require a lot of suffering. When he tries to, in the process of recovery perhaps, he would undergo a lot of suffering. So for that, a person, when he enters a hospital, he is distraught with either grief or anxiety. The third line, riding wordlessly on the elevator with the other customers. Here in this line also, our keyword is customers. Here customers, whenever we hear the word customers, it brings to our memory a marketplace, a relationship that is completely transactional. And the poet, with the help of his keen wit, deliberately draws that picture of business or market, a relationship that is transactional. He completely negates the conventional image of hospital as a safe sanctuary, as a place where one can find comfort. Staring at the closed beige doors like a prison wall. In the fourth line also, he talks about the closed beige doors and he compares the walls of the hospital to a prison wall. The closed doors as well as the prison wall, these phrases remain as a harsh reminder that no solace or comfort can be found here, and one is bound to one's fate of suffering. be it either a journey towards recovery or a journey that would end in the final fate, where one would meet one's final fate. In both the cases, one will have to undergo this experience of suffering. There is no escape. So, the words closed and prison are very, very significant in the poem. Let us move on to the second stanza. I like the hospital for the way it grants permission for pathos. The mother with cancer deciding how to tell her kids, in the bald girl gazing downward at the shunt installed above her missing breast. The crone in her pajamas walking with an ivy pole. All these images that the poet presents in front of us, these are all filled with pathos or tragedy. But look at the first line of the second stanza. He says, I like the way I like the hospital for the way it grants permission for pathos. Now, grant permission, this particular phrase is very important and symbolic because it directly refers to the consumer culture that was there in America, and the poet comments on that. Now, what is this consumer culture? Here, in America, the life was projected as a perfect life filled with all sorts of material luxuries and comforts. It was promoted that if one owned a lot of material wealth, it guarantees a person's overall well-being. Our poet, breaks that myth, and he almost in a sarcastic manner comments that it grants permission. Everywhere else, the culture is such that it is busy promoting a perfect life, a life without any flaw, without illness. Only material things can ensure a good life. But here the poet shows that how starkly ironic this entire concept is, how it is completely a myth that material comforts can ensure overall well-being of a person. And he also shows that how in hospital there is one permission, the people are allowed to somehow play out their tragic lives, where there is one place where perhaps the consumer culture allows or grants permission for the person to be a part of tragedy or experience tragedy. Now he draws all the images together. The mother with cancer deciding how to tell her kids. So the mother has young children and she doesn't know how to reveal it to her children that she is suffering from a terminal illness. Then there is this girl who is completely ravaged by cancer and she is bald. Perhaps she has undergone treatment and that has caused her to lose her hair. And she stares downward at the shunt. What is a shunt? It is a medical equipment. It's a passage formed artificially so that blood and fluid can flow. And it is installed above her amputated breast. Next, we see an old woman who is completely bereft, or she has no vitality left in her. She is walking feebly in her pajamas with an ivy pole attached to her. Then he says, I don't like the smell of antiseptic or the air conditioning set on high all night, or the fresh flowers tossed into the waste basket. Now the next stanza is also quite significant because here he points out the things that he finds undesirable, things that he doesn't like in a hospital. And all these things are, you will find, these are all material things, These give an illusion of comfort, but ultimately or in reality, these things cannot help either in the mental well-being of the patient or cannot assist in the recovery process. What are these things? He says that sharp smell of antiseptic whenever one enters the hospital, the air condition set on high all night, or the fresh flowers tossed into the waste basket. So the flowers cupping, but uh, but the flowers, those are every day they are tossed, they are thrown away in the waste basket, because these flowers or antiseptic or even the air conditioning, these are all formal procedures. These all show a formality towards the patient, but it nowhere inquires the deeper anxieties or troubles or suffering of a patient. But I like the way some people on their plastic chairs break out a notebook and invent a complex scoring system to tally up their days on earth. The column on the left that says times I acted like a fool, facing the column on the right that says times I acted like a saint. Soon after this, he returns to his main area of interest, that is, the human beings, the patients walking around in the hospital. He says that he likes how some people, sitting on their plastic chairs, break out a notebook. So, the tone in which he starts describing the process, it already shows that this exercise is completely futile. He says that these people are fragile. They sit on their plastic chairs and they take out a notebook and they invent a complex scoring system in order to understand how they have fared in their lives. And they tally up, that is, they calculate their days on earth, how they have behaved, how many days they have ahead of him, and they set two columns. Times I acted like a fool. Look at the italics in which it has been put, as if it has been directly quoted from another person's notebook. And the times they have acted like a saint. The entire process has been presented in such a way that it already informs the readers. This brings in the tragicomic tone appropriately, where it is already given that this entire process is futile, it is useless. So, we have arrived at the end of the fourth stanza. We will move on to the next stanza in the next part of the video. Please stay tuned for the next part. If you like my work, please like, share and subscribe to my channel so that I may come in front of you all with newer videos. Thank you.